Dumelang ko gae ke le amohela lenaneong la rona la pele la Daughters of Destiny, a show that gives women a platform to come together, share experiences, give advice, empower, and just build one another. Every woman has been fearfully and wonderfully made by God and predestined to succeed and make a difference in this world. We are all His precious daughters, and a great destiny lies ahead of each and every one of us. Tonight, we're talking about marriage. Yes, WELILE, a beautiful institution established by God, but is it always beautiful? We look into marriages that have stood the test of time, and two wonderful women who overcame their experiences after they said, I do. Joining me tonight is the beautiful WELILE MOKHOBO, a mother of 3, a wife, and a successful corporate woman. WELILE, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Look absolutely stunning.
Well, so do you.
Thank you. Now we're talking about marriage, lenyalo. I mean, every woman wants to get married. It's every woman's dream. And we often go into it with high expectations. You want a perfect marriage, a perfect man, a perfect family, your perfect kids. You know, everything just has to be perfect. But it's not always like that. And I always say that marriage actually happens or begins after the wedding day, the white gown, the celebrations. Marriage starts after that. Reality kicks in. So now tell us about your marriage. How was your marriage before you started encountering problems? What was the situation?
So we were the typical guy meets girl kind of couple. We worked in the same organization.
Oh, right.
And when I met him, I thought, and he thought, So yeah, so it was a good year dating, and we were together all the time. He made me laugh. Every time he looked at me, I could see the sparkle. You know, the typical.
The butterflies.
And then the butterflies, and you always want to be around each other. So yeah, that was.
It was amazing.
That was our pre-marriage setup, and because. If I could say so, problem number 1 started at year 1.
At year 1?
Yes.
So it was at that point in your marriage, after 1 year?
It was a honeymoon phase.
That things
that
started.
Didn't last. Yeah.
So who changed? What happened?
Well, I don't know whether I could say somebody changed, but I suppose life just became life. I became the wife, and maybe, you know, you could safely say I changed, because I was no longer the girlfriend, if I could put it that way, because we tend to do that as women. Then we take on this whole other persona, and guys remain guys. Yeah. They remain looking for fun with you, right? And they just want to carry on with life apart from the status or the label. So maybe you could say I changed. I cannot say for sure.
Okay, and then what are some of the worst things that you would say happened, or instances that you can never forget?
Oh, there were third-person interferences, you know?
Yeah.
You know those?
Yeah.
And,
I know.
And people who just take away the attention of your husband from you, from his house, from his responsibilities. That was perhaps the start of the start of things. The biggest was when he physically manhandled me. Let's put the man there, because he's a big guy. So when he physically manhandled me, that was, I could say, the biggest for me, because I never saw it coming.
Expected that.
I never expected it.
It's loving and
from a guy who selected me out of many and wanted my hand in marriage. Yeah. That was the biggest offense for me. Obviously the others were offenses in themselves, but this one for me
was just the
worst.
And what made you stay even after all of that and things had changed? Because I can imagine it was no longer a good environment to be in, but what made you stay in that?
For years our relationship was not the best. We grew apart, we had separate lives. We came together because we lived in the same house and we were married. The environment was not conducive for anyone to flourish and blossom, and neither of us were happy. And I can say this now in retrospect. I was unhappy because he wasn't being the perfect husband. He was unhappy because I wasn't being the wife, the person that he had coupled himself with. And everything that happened layered on something that had happened prior. So nothing was ever resolved. So
Piling up.
it was just an environment waiting to explode. And the evening where he manhandled me, I could say was probably the most pivotal in our relationship, because subsequent to that, I then moved out. So we separated, and that separation was probably the worst time of my life, personally, spiritually, and yet it was the best.
You needed it.
I needed it because I personally believe that God moved me from a noisy environment where I was concerned about everything but him. And he placed me in this valley where there was just him and I. And it was quiet, it was lonely, but it was fruitful. So what made me stay? So I came back. Back
into the house.
Back into the house months later. And the primary thing for me at that moment in time was my children. Yes, I can hear people say, don't stay in your marriage for children, but I did.
Put yourself first.
I did. It was for my children. When I look back now, I realize that it was for my personal ministry, my purpose. And that is, marriage is my ministry.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep.
That is why I stayed. So the staying was the culmination of a lot of things. The relationship between my God and I, the direction, the obedience of the people that were around me through that valley. It was a culmination of a lot of things for me to stay. Trust me when I say this, it was not a willing decision.
It wasn't easy.
I did not make it easy. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, we don't often hear, when couples are going through problems, we don't often hear that I was the problem or I had a part to play in it. It's always, you did this, no, she did this. No one ever owns up to say that I was actually the problem. And what are the things that you think that you did that made the situation worse?
My mouth. Because against everything that I was confronted with, where my husband was concerned, my only defense was my mouth. And I ran it. I ran it in ways that cut. And because I ran it that much, I think my fault in all this was I pushed him away. I'm not justifying that I pushed him towards others, but I pushed him away. So it was him going to others was his choice. I'm not going to own that. But I pushed him away from us because of my mouth. And because I made him jump through hoops to please me. Yeah? And that for me, I believe, is probably the worst thing. Vanity is a terrible thing.
I must applaud you though for being able to say that I did this. I spoke words that hurt, that just caused damage, because not a lot of people, and marriages just end like that because nobody's willing to say I was at fault, I'm sorry, let's make it work. They often just leave it, and that way pride actually comes in. But after the break, we speak to another amazing woman. Though she went through trials and tribulations in her marriage, she still manages to wear a smile on her face and carry on with her race. See you after the break.